Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Fortis Impact Talk. This week I'm chatting to James Smart from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Cape Town. We talk about crime and getting punched in the face. And it's a hard conversation to have.
Not everybody can just get on a plane and leave. People just think proactive, just not reactive.
James, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Under the circumstances of lockdown.
Well, James, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did all this start for you? Where did your passion start for martial arts and combatives?
All right, so I guess I've been doing martial arts for a very significant part of my life. I guess I started seriously doing martial arts when I was about 17, 18, karate, and then I started Japanese jiu-jitsu and went through to, I think, about first kyu, so brown belt, one stripe in Japanese jiu-jitsu. And then a friend of mine heard about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and it was literally like he read it in a UK Martial Arts Illustrated magazine kind of, thing. And I think he read about the Hickson Gracie and maybe the first UFC, something like that. So anyway, he came in and said to me, he was like, hey, listen, we're doing Japanese jiu-jitsu. Let's go and find out what this other jiu-jitsu is like. And at the time in the UK, there was no one that we knew of that was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu or Gracie jiu-jitsu. And we were like, we really wanted to train with a Gracie. So we phoned the Gracie Academy, and a lady called Lupe, who's still, this is back in 2000, I think 2000. Lupe answered the phone. Lupe still works there now. And she answered the phone and she was like, yeah, Mr. Horion Gracie is here and Heno and Hiro will be taking the class. And we were like, wow, okay, we need to go along. So we went along. We were there for 2 weeks. We trained ourselves silly. We trained ourselves so silly that we almost couldn't get up. By day 4, I think, we were struggling to walk down a staircase. It was just so painful. And then 2005, I think I decided that I wanted to teach jiu-jitsu. I wanted to teach Gracie jiu-jitsu. This was going to be the future. And a friend of mine, Gary King, who's now in South Africa as well, we came out here together. He actually said, he was like, James, listen, I'm on holiday in Cape Town. It's the best place in the world. You don't understand. And I said, okay, well, let's move there and teach jiu-jitsu then. And it was literally kind of that simple. He was there. He was in Cape Town. He came back. I then came here for 2 weeks holiday, and I was like, yeah, you're right. We were standing on top of Table Mountain. I was like, this is the most amazing place in the world. Let's move here. So we literally packed everything up in the UK, and 2007 we moved out here. And between 2005 2007, I traveled to Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles, trained at the Gracie Academy, like 8-9 hours a day. We then both moved to. I met him in Brazil. We trained in Brazil for 6 months. Actually, I think it was 3 months at Gracie Barra. Went back to the UK, kind of closed everything up and moved to Cape Town and opened an academy. So that was kind of the martial arts, if you like. In between then, I did some boxing, some kickboxing. And then, relevant to the combatives, what happened is I realized that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, in my opinion, obviously, is the best solution for a interpersonal, ego-driven violent environment, if you like. So in that kind of situation where it's our egos that are on the line, I believe that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is the best solution. Because with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, there's no harming anyone, right? I can choke someone completely unconscious and not hurt them. A criminal environment is very different than a socially driven ego environment, right? A criminal environment involves someone else, at least one other person. It probably involves weapons, probably a knife. We live in Cape Town, or I live in Cape Town. You know, so it's unpredictable. And also, if you think about the moral code and the mindset of that person in a criminal environment, they don't have the same moral code as us. So I realized that actually getting involved from in that kind of fight from a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu point of view, a grappling point of view, might not be the smartest idea. So I then started looking for other solutions. A guy who had contacted me and wanted to train with us for the groundwork side of things, and if you like, the anti-grappling, let's call it, was a guy who had trained with Dennis Martin for a long time in the UK. He'd trained with Lee Morrison for a long time. Some of the real combatives guys he'd followed, Kelly McCann, at the time known as Jim Grover. And I said to him, you know, I've done some striking a little bit. I've done a lot of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but I feel like I'm missing that weapons environment. I feel like I'm missing that, how to deal with that weapons environment, what to do in that kind of situation where a knife is pulled or whatever. And since then, it's just grown, and I've gathered more experience. And I'm very fortunate, I think, to, number one, train with guys. You know, we live in South Africa, so we are exposed to people that have faced criminal and very violent situations on a regular basis. So I started the program with Street Smart for the armed response and law enforcement, and again, you know, I'm very fortunate to glean from guys that have been stabbed and they've been shot and they've shot other people and they've stabbed other people. When I have a class of 20 people and I say to them, I start my class off by saying, first of all, I say, who's done any martial arts before? And most of the time, almost no one has done any martial arts. Then I'll say, who in here has been stabbed before? And generally out of 20 people, I'll get 4 or 5 people that have been stabbed before. And then I'll say, okay, who has been shot before? And I'll get 3 or 4 people that have been shot. I have those discussions with those guys, and I think the good thing is that it means that whenever I teach someone, especially those guys that have been there and they've been in those situations, if I teach them something that is not going to work, they call me on it.
Of people that I've spoken to that have been stabbed, and I've said to them, what did you feel when you were stabbed? And every single person will either say one of 2 answers: nothing, or I thought I was being punched. Okay? So if you're busy stabbing someone and they think they're being punched, but you're not knocking them out because you're stabbing them, right? Or you're not injured, you're not causing a significant amount of pain to take away their will to carry on fighting you, you're stabbing them. So yes, okay, it might finish the fight because they might bleed out and lose consciousness, or they might bleed enough and they see their blood and they lose their will to carry on. But if you think that the pain of that knife is going to finish the fight, then you need to put the knife away and find something that is going to cause pain, like a baseball bat. And actually, as I said, I interviewed Craig this week on Lockdown Legends, and he said it really well. I'm going to steal straight from him. He said, fighting and punching, in his opinion, knife and punching, in his opinion, is either an entry to the fight or an exit from the fight. It shouldn't be what you're doing in the fight. Punching or striking is an unreliable way of engaging in a fight for the longevity of the fight. It's a good way of pausing the fight to create an exit, or pausing the fight to create an entry for something else. Right. But it's not a very good way of sustaining a fight, if you like.
James, coming from the UK, coming to South Africa, was it kind of a shock to you? I mean, how does the crime compare? Let's say, for instance, in the UK to here.
But the difference, to look at the difference, I think the difference is that in the UK, the crime is it's more social. Okay, it's more that ego-driven violence. But your average violence in the UK is, if it's a criminal-based violence, it might be a stabbing, but you've got to be in the wrong place to end up getting stabbed. And if it's a mugging kind of situation, then it's more likely to be a push and a grab of the wallet or a grab of the phone. It's not driven by that and I'm going to want to say lack of moral code, or actually, let me say, it's more driven by desperation here. In the UK, it's not driven by desperation; it's driven by want. Whereas here, I think it's more driven by need. It's driven by, I don't have any other way of getting income. I might have a drug habit or not or whatever, but I've got to do whatever it takes to be able to get that phone or that wallet or whatever. And whatever the consequences are, it doesn't matter, because it's about me, my livelihood, and my survival of my family. And I'm not forgiving the kind of crime, but I'm just saying that it's driven by something different. I don't know that it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to change. There is no, right now, I think that there is, I'm not going to say there is no consequence. I've got some very good friends that are in SAPs and in Metro and that kind of thing, and they're doing their level best. They're, a lot of them are working, and they're doing everything they can. And I've trained some really good guys that are in the gang units and that kind of thing, and they're working the hours, and they're doing the raids, and they're really trying hard, and they get into court as well. But I just think that the crime the numbers of crime, people doing crime, massively outweighs the resources and the numbers of people that are preventing the crime. So I don't know that there's going to be any, it's not going to get better. I don't see it getting better. Let's put it like that. Is it going to get worse? Well, I think it might do, in the situation that we're in right now with the lockdown, and we're going to come out of the lockdown with a lot more people unemployed and a lot more people on the poverty line, and poverty inevitably, whether you've got a good moral code or a bad moral code, poverty drives crime.
So what do you suggest average citizens, obviously, you've done the combatives, you've done the martial arts, you've done the training. How important is training in getting yourself to a point where you can actually defend yourself and your family against this kind of escalation of crime?
Let me say it like this. Knowledge is everything. Training, if someone's sitting at home right now going, man, I want to prepare for if the crime does go up, then I'm able to defend my family and stop myself from getting mugged. Listen, I'm sorry, you're probably too late, because the crime is going to go up before you're able to get any training in the situation we're in right now. The shooting ranges are closed, the gun shops are closed, everything else is closed. What are you going to do right now? So I think the thing that people need to do is go and get knowledge. Let's step outside of you and I who have training, and in theory, and I say in theory because I've got training and I train. I'm very fortunate to teach, so I train and I train and I train a lot, but I still can't guarantee the outcome of a violent incident. Yeah. Can I consider that I might have stacked the odds in my favor? Yeah. But can I guarantee any outcomes? No, not at all. If I get carjacked next week, can I guarantee the outcome of that? No, not at all. No matter how much training I've done. So the return on investment of training, I would say, is actually relatively low. What is it that keeps us safe? What keeps us safe is our avoidance and our awareness, our ability to be able to see it coming before it happens and get out of the situation and not be there. Okay, so I think now is a good time, especially where people at home and you and I are busy, but we still, even though we're busy, we probably have more time on our hands than we did have. Now is a great time where people should be going, I'm going to gather the knowledge to try and prevent myself from getting into that situation where I need the skills to defend myself. So I think being proactive and doing the knowledge stuff now, and then carrying that knowledge stuff through, even when we can go back to training and we can get skilled up or carry on our skills, carrying on that knowledge side of self-defense is a far higher return on investment than the physical, violent stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, because number one weapon is your mind.
Absolutely. And it's
gathering
not,
knowledge, you start orientating yourself to being safer, right?
and start developing the mindset, right? The mindset of I think mindset drives everything. If you've got the right mindset, it will facilitate you finding the knowledge. It will facilitate you having that determination. If someone does come through your door, to fight them off. And actually, this is a question that I ask students often: which is more important, mindset or skill? I know you're doing the interview here. I'm going to return the question to you though. Which is more important, mindset or skill?
Mindset.
Mindset,
Skill backs
absolutely.
it up, right?
And skill not driven by mindset is zero, right?
Yes.
If you take, and let me put it like this is the analogy that I normally use. If you take a kid, and I'll use taekwondo, but I normally use karate. If you take a kid who's grown up in a perfect environment, perfect home, amazing mum and dad, harmony and fluffy clouds and everything all their life. And they trained for 10 years in taekwondo, right? And then you take a kid off of the Cape Flats who's never trained a day in his life. And those two kids at the age of 15 get into a fight. Who's most likely to win?
Yeah, the kid from the flats.
The kid from the flats. Because you can punch a kid from the flats in the face multiple times, and what's he going to do? He's going to keep getting up, and he's going to keep fighting until he wins, because he's been punched in the face before, and he's had bad times, and it's been horrible, and he's been kicked around by his family and so on. Whereas the kid who's grown up in that fluffy cows environment, who's never been punched in the face in his life, will get punched in the face one time, and that'll be the end of his fight. So people should, I think people should develop that mindset. Don't go and punch each other in the face, obviously, but develop that determination, that value in self, to say, if I get punched in the face, I'm going to carry on. If I get stabbed, and I know I've been stabbed, I know that doesn't mean it's the end. I'm going to carry on, and I will fight until the fight is done. And I think there needs to be physical stuff that goes along with developing that mindset. But I think you can start that preparation by actually just valuing yourself and your family highly enough to be determined enough, so to speak. I think that actually, whilst we're doing this, I just want to do a quick punt from the mindset point of view, if you don't mind. I've teamed up with a company, and we developed an app, a web app actually, called Invisible Man Defense. Initially, we did it predominantly for women, for women to be able to learn that mental side of self-defense, to save them needing the hard skills, the doing. So it's all about awareness, and it's all about avoidance and the color codes and all, all that side of things. But just because we developed it for women, it actually applies to everyone and anyone. And we talk about mindset, and we go through everything that's really needed from that avoidance point of view and awareness point of view. So I would say the best strategy would be jump on Invisible Man Defense, learn whilst we're in lockdown, learn that and get really good at it, really embed it in as part of your habitual knowledge. Then when we finish lockdown, find a place to train combatives. If anything, go out and do some boxing and do some wrestling and do some jiu-jitsu and learn the awareness side of things, and get punched in the face and find out what it's like to be in a fight, and find out what it's like to weather the storm of that kind of thing. Yeah, does someone need to go and get gun skills? I don't know. I'm a advocate of carrying a firearm, of course. So I would say yes, go and get, if you're comfortable carrying a gun and you're prepared to engage in that lifestyle, because the problem about carrying a firearm is that it's a lifestyle decision. I don't know whether you do carry a firearm, but you have to change when you decide to carry a firearm. You have to change your mindset when you're out and about, with regards to getting into arguments or not getting into arguments. You have to change what you wear and how you wear it. You have to put up with the discomfort of carrying a firearm because it's not comfortable. You have to train more than the average person would ever bother training. There's so many lifestyle changes that need to happen with regards to carrying a firearm. Is there easier solutions? I think that there's not easier solutions, but you could say taking a softer route to begin with, maybe go and do some boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, buy some pepper spray, and learn how to use the pepper spray. The problem with pepper spray is that there's a lot of great things about pepper spray. I'm a huge fan of pepper spray, but a lot of people go to the security store, buy a pepper spray, put it in their handbag or their car, and then think that that's done, right? So when I say learn how to use pepper spray and learn how to carry pepper spray, I mean that. Go in and find out details about when to get the pepper spray out, how it should be used, the different types of pepper spray, how you should carry it. But I think pepper spray is a very good option from the point of view of being able to exit the criminal, the potential attack situation early.
Last question I want to ask you is, how do you get someone to wake up? Does crime necessarily have to happen to someone before they wake up? How do you change that mind? How do you get that mindset right?
Say no. If I knew the answer to that, man, come on. I hate to say it, but okay. All I'm going to say is I don't know. I say to people that I meet, come and do jiu-jitsu. Okay, my best friend, come and do jiu-jitsu, and they're like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And maybe I even show them something. This is how good jiu-jitsu is. I show them a video. This is a guy, in a fight on the street. This is amazing. It's amazing. This is the best jiu-jitsu. This is the best way of doing it. This is the best self-defense. Do they come? No. My most frustrating example, on the estate that I live in, this time last year, we had 4 break-ins to the estate. This time, by now, I think it was a month ago, we'd had 14 break-ins, right? So I sent out a message. I wrote this document of just good, solid advice about home security and the way to apply your mind through the lockdown and so on and so on. And I sent it out to the WhatsApp group and all the rest of it. And I said to people, if you would like me to just come and chat through your home security and all the rest of it, please let me know. I'll do it free of charge. Nothing.
Not one.
Not one. So even people that have been in those situations still don't do anything about it. I don't know. I simply don't know. With Rodney, a couple of years ago, he came down and we kind of connected and went out for dinner a couple of times and trained together. And he came down and did a course at my academy. And we were talking, and he was saying the most amazing thing is that in South Africa, his own club, right? Maybe, I don't know, 15 to 20 people per class. Okay. You go to somewhere like Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, where there's no crime, 0 crime rate, and there's 200 people in a class. Okay, and he said, what is it? And the thing that we ended up concluding is that that people in a safe environment, that everything else is so right, the only thing they've got left in their life to worry about is the possibility of getting attacked. So then they focus on sorting out. Everything else is in place. Everything else is in order. So then the only thing they've got left that they're not in control of is, am I going to get attacked or not? Let me focus on this. In South Africa, I believe that everything is so out of order and crime is so prevalent that people end up going, what's the point? What's the point in worrying about it? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I've got so many other things on my plate, I just can't.
That's very true. There's like a reluctance to have to fight. You just sort of,
But now you're touching on, because you said there's a reluctance to fight. And it's interesting because I have this thing where I think a lot of, and I'm going to put guys on this, right? A lot of guys who come to a combatives class or a boxing class or a jiu-jitsu class, they think they want to know. There's two types of guys. This is terrible for me to say this. There's the guys that think they want to know how to fight, but when they get punched in the face, they decide very quickly that they didn't want to know how to fight.
Right.
Okay, and therefore they probably do another style that is much softer and much less likely to get punched in the face, but still gives them that sense of security that maybe actually their funky, amazing stuff is going to work, right? But they never get punched in the face, so they feel okay about that. And then the other type of guy is the guy who says, I know, but I can handle it. I'll beat anyone up who, you know, and it's actually, there was a university, I think in America, and they did a study on how much men overrate their ability in a fight situation. And just for a laugh, how much do you think men overrate their ability?
Oh, yes. Most of the time.
89%.
Yeah, it's because of ego, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm hard enough. I'm tough enough.
Yeah, there we go. I'm a man.
Right? Absolutely. So, and I think that comes into it, you know, people, I don't need to learn how to do that. I can do that. I can punt, I can hit people. You know, when I'm teaching a combatives course and I get brand new guys, and you know, the course that I do is a 5-day course. And then when we come to the striking part, and I say to guys, okay, who can hit? And I can hit really hard. And I say, okay, come, hit this pad right now. And I'm like, really? It's like a 12-year-old kid, you know? And it just, and then by the time we finish that day of striking, they're still not good, but they've multiplied their power by 100-fold. And now all of a sudden they're going, wow, I never knew that actually I would have no effect if I punched someone.
Yeah, because you've never been hit in the face.
That's right, absolutely.
How much do you know? How much do you know about yourself if you haven't been in a fight before? I mean, I think that's a question you should start with. If you haven't been hit in the face, what do you know about your own capabilities?
About your own capabilities, yeah, sure. I don't think you know anything about whether you're prepared to weather a storm, right? Whether you're prepared to take it. But if you've never thrown a punch or a strike of any sort, I don't think if you've never thrown a strike full power, then I don't think you know whether you're actually capable of doing that or not. And I think sometimes people get really misled by hitting a bag. We've got punch bags up in the academy. Guys come along and they kick that bag really hard, and they think they can kick really, really hard. Yeah, okay, but now do that when you've got tackies on and you're on the pavement and a guy's just punched you in the face.
Yeah.
Now kick that hard. Okay, let's see that happen. Whatever you do needs to be acid tested in some form. That doesn't mean to say go out and start a fight, but I think it is a responsibility to at least understand that you have an ability to apply what you're doing under duress with a massive adrenaline dump and with a guy who's also got an adrenaline dump at the same time.
True. James, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and all the insight that you've given us tonight.
Pleasure. Thanks very much, Reynard. Awesome.
All right.